Dean often asks the faculty for an anecdote to present about that student. And the anecdote could be something about your outstanding academic work, maybe some particularly excellent paper they wrote. It could be something about their meritorious service to the college, or it could be something that's just plain embarrassing. And Stephen, you drew the short straw. At Shimer, class attendance is more or less mandatory. Because of the nature of our seminar classes, it's vital that students not miss more than a very few class sessions in any course, and that they not be even late for classes, because participation is vital. Last year, Stephen was, of course, taught by Jim Donovan, and he keeps looking over at Jim to see what Jim was going to say about him, but Stephen had very uncharacteristically shown up late a few more times than was really best for him. So, being very diligent, he asked Jim what he could do to make up for his lateness. And Jim jokingly told him, well, you'll need to do penance. Now, being a good student despite the tardiness, Stephen said, okay, that's fine. What does that involve? Well, since this is Shimer, Jim felt he couldn't resort to some insipid 20th century penance, like having Stephen do a rosary, so he described the penance tradition of many centuries ago. The classical tradition, we might call it, whereby a penitent would kneel in front of the church for a period of time to acknowledge their sin and also to acknowledge their willingness to repent. Stephen agreed, and as a good sport, he subsequently spent an entire morning in the student lounge with a homemade sign acknowledging his sins, asking for forgiveness, and generally looking rather damaged. Well, that story aside, Stephen has had very little to look downcast about or to do penance for. He's been a great asset to the Shimer community, although because he's a transfer student, he's only been with us 2 years. I'm sure it feels to all of us that he's been here for the full 4 years of the Shimer curriculum. So we're sorry to see him go, but we're great that he'll be one of the representatives to the outside world.
In trying to prepare for this speech, I wrote a couple of different drafts of the speech. And each time I write the draft, I would set it down and come back to it a day later, a couple hours later. And each time I came back to the speech I had drafted, I thought it was essentially missing something, that I really didn't express what I feel is essential to express to all of you today. Considering that, I considered the nature of Shimer, and I realized that to write a speech and repeat it verbatim is naturally undialectic and unshimerian. So I decided I should just wing it. So, but more profoundly, I realized that there was no way I could really anticipate how I'd be feeling today. And now that I finally arrived at this moment, I realized how correct I was. There aren't really words to describe how I'm feeling right now. I feel almost like a character in a Kafka novel. I've been called to give a trial, to an apology of my time at Shimer, and I really don't know how to express it. It's been so multifaceted and so variable that I just don't know how to convey it all in a 5-minute speech. But the way I'm feeling now is somewhat surreal. I feel an intense excitement for the future. I feel a certain longing for the past. And I feel an awe at the present moment. I think back about the short time I spent at Shimer, how these 2 years have been so briefly contained. But within these 2 years, I've had such an array of experiences that have in Shimer, and I really realized how Shimer really embodies the institutional education. Before I came to Shimer, I had pretty much lost my faith in organized education. But now that I've come to Shimer and I've been here for 2 years and I've had the opportunity to work with and study with some brilliant, amazing people, I realized that Shimer realizes the value of the personal experience of education. I think back upon the experiences I've had at Shimer that have been the most educative to me and the most valuable. I think about a road trip I took to the Rocky Mountains for a semester project, or the encouragement to buy a school bus and drive down to Washington.